Is This Secure? It's a podcast about technology. I'm Michael. He's Curtis. Hey, babe.
A virus is uploading.
You know, speaking of uploading, let me see if I can upload an iMessage to you via my PC. I'm going to test this right now. Test
All right.
1, 2, 3. Now you look at your iPhone, see if that comes through as an iMessage as opposed to a green bubble.
Yes. Let's
Okay.
see my response.
So there it is. You can now iMessage from a PC. Isn't that fan? And there's your reply. That's fantastic.
And mine stayed blue. Cool. It is pretty wild that when I saw that article come out that they were getting ready to release that feature, I'm like, it's so dumb of Apple to hide.
Well, do you think Apple has allowed the? Well, what we're talking about is there's the Phone Link app on Windows 10 and Windows 11, and that allows you to text on your PC through your phone, view the photos that are on your phone. You can even do voice calls and whatnot. And that's always worked fine with Android devices, and reasonably so because they're Android devices. They're much more open, but it was never even considered that this was going to work on an iPhone, and now suddenly you can do iMessages from your PC using this same Phone Link app. And just this evening, I joined the Windows Insider program and hooked up with the beta channel. There's like 3 different Windows Insider channels you can get on. There's the developer channel, there's the beta channel, and the release preview channel. I didn't know if the release preview was going to be early enough in the stream for me to get this on this Phone Link app, so I went with the beta, and apparently I made the right call there. And so if you are doing that, if your installation of Windows 11 is in that Insider program and you're on the beta stream, you will be able to use this iMessage feature within the Phone Link app. And it works fantastically. And you say that you don't think this is something Apple hasn't opened up?
No, I know it isn't. Because
how are they doing this?
Apple's dumb because they really they could be the standard in rich text messaging if they would just open it. But what it's doing is using Bluetooth, so a Bluetooth connection from machine to your phone through the phone app. So a lot of features are missing. So everything they've opened through Bluetooth connection, you can do right now on a Windows phone. But you can't be part of a group text. You can't.
I just lost you. I don't know if you can still hear me. I see your VU meter moving there, but you just absolutely went away. Well, either way, it seems to work wonderfully. I've been iMessaging on this all night long. This is something that I never thought would happen, and apparently it has happened. Is this a portion of the show that we might edit out, or should I just keep talking? I don't know. Curtis, I can't hear you. Oh, there, he just dropped. Okay. You know, Curtis and I were having a nice conversation for about an hour prior to the beginning of tonight's show, and without a hitch. I mean, the thing worked flawlessly, and it's when the show actually begins getting recorded that everything takes a big, giant, steaming what have you. Curtis, I see you've reconnected. Can you hear me? It seems as though we're using something called Source Connect, and I forget what it was that we were using previously. It starts with a C. Clear, it's not Clearwire. I'm always instinctively wanting to call it Clearwire, though. But, oh, shoot, what is that called? Anyway, we're using something called Source Connect to be able to do this with one another. And it just works. One of the things I really like about it is you can very specific, and it's free. I don't know why this is free, but it's absolutely free. You can choose in the browser right here. You don't have to go into the browser settings or anything. Just right there in the browser, you can choose what bit rate you want to use, whether you want to have mono or stereo. You can go all the way up to 512 kilobits per second stereo or mono, which if you go to, no, I'm sorry, it's 256K mono and 512 stereo so that the two of you can connect remotely to one another. And I see Curtis is texting me now. He says Apple heard me. I'm going to say, yeah, I don't see any audio levels going to you. This is tech support in real time, ladies and gentlemen. Let me refresh that page, and we'll see what we can do. Let me tell Curtis I just refreshed. Now, see, most podcast hosts would remove this portion of the show from the recording. I'm not going to do that. Not because I'm necessarily so committed to authenticity. I'm just too lazy to go back and do the edits. Curtis, can you hear me now? Okay, you are... Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to change my audio devices. You're actually coming through the speakers on my PC. Well, wait. Now Source Connect doesn't see my Roadcaster. Oh, boy. That might be what happened. It looks like my Roadcaster might have just sort of like lost its ability to talk to the PC, but it never looked that way. I'm going to refresh. We'll see what happens here this time. If I go here to my Windows settings, it looks like the Roadcaster is entirely not even... Okay, let me unplug the USB cable from the Roadcaster. And then plug it back in. And then we'll see if Windows now sees the Roadcaster. Okay, Windows now sees the Roadcaster. So I'll refresh this page and we'll see if I can get Curtis again. Let's find out what happens. Okay, now I'm in there. I see Curtis, and it looks like the audio devices are set up correctly. How about now, Curtis?
You sound better, and I do not hear myself.
Okay, good. Yeah, it looks like the Roadcaster just totally lost its connection to the PC. I'm going to take a look here real quick. There's a problem with the BIOS on this Dell All-in-One that I'm using here, where if the Dell All-in-One is turned completely off, and then it's turned back on with the Roadcaster plugged into the PC with the USB-C cable, the Dell All-in-One will not post. It will not ever get to the point where it shows you the Dell logo. It just, you see the power light on it just flickers like repeatedly. It gets caught in some sort of stupid loop. And so when my kids use this PC, what they'll do is they'll reach back behind the PC and unplug that USB-C cable and then start the PC up. And then once they see they've got signs of life, they'll plug the cable back in. And I kind of suspected maybe they didn't plug it back in all the way. I was just telling the listening audience, most podcast hosts would remove all of that from the show, but I am not going to do that because I feel like it would be an assault on the soul of this show's authenticity. I told the listening audience something different as to the reason why when you weren't here, but now that you are here, I will tell you that it's got something to do with ethics and morals and doing the right thing.
We are what we record, and there's no reason to edit it.
So you're saying this ability to do iMessages from the Phone Link app is using existing Bluetooth connectivity that was already there in iOS.
Well, yeah, so they've opened it up a little bit.
Oh, have they?
Apple has, but not to the point. Like this is what I would call is an unplanned usage on the Apple side. So all the features aren't available when you're connecting to the Bluetooth API of the phone for messaging, but you can send a message. Like, let me try to send. Let me see if I have just a dumb screenshot of anything.
Send me some compromising photos.
Oh, give me a second. I got to get to that folder.
I've been told at least that you've got countless numbers of those at your disposal, ready to send at a moment's notice.
Yeah, typically you got to be an OnlyFans subscriber of me to get these, but yeah, I'll send them to you.
Curtis has been considering quitting his main job as a result of the overwhelming success of his OnlyFans. And so we'll put a link in the show notes for that for those of you who are, looking for something new.
Can you imagine? Like I've never browsed the site, but let's just go ahead and assume that I have and you have.
Oh, it's my homepage. It comes
you're
right up.
OnlyFans.
I'm like, I'm like talking to my daughter Jasmine. No, if you want to get to Roblox, you've got to leave the OnlyFans.
First. You have to log into OnlyFans, and then you can get to the bookmark that you saved.
No, Jasmine, that is not Roblox. That's OnlyFans. You're going to have to navigate away from that.
I mean, think about you're scrolling through it, and you see red-haired 40-something guy sitting at his computer typing out code, and you think, "Yep."
With legs spread.
with almost no leg hair, but it's red. So
and two fingers strategically placed. Let's see. Okay, so on my iPhone itself, I see your attached media, but on the phone link app, all I see is attachment : one image. So
isn't that great?
That's really happening. But even so, I mean, like there've been a lot of times when using an iOS device and sitting in front of a PC, I really wanted the ability to just not have to pick up my phone. And
yeah,
so this is nice, at least, to be able to do this.
Forward.
It is a step in the right direction. But you're right that Apple, well, are they wrong for not just making sort of a standard out of iMessage? I mean, there is RTS, which Google is sort of trying to get everybody to adopt, and they're also trying to get Apple to adopt or at least incorporate into the Messages app so that people who communicate with iPhone users from the Android platform are going to be able to send media, high-resolution media, both photo and video and all that happy stuff. But Apple doesn't want to do it for seemingly obvious reasons, and there are internal communications within Apple that specifically say, hey, if we do that, we're going to be essentially cannibalizing ourselves here. So we're not going to do it.
It's all optics. The blue text bubble means way more to them just perception than the reality of more people would be excited for this feature. Because the truth is, Google would drop RCS in a heartbeat if Apple just would make iMessage available.
Is it RCS or RTS?
Oh, whichever one it is.
Curtis,
is it rich text?
Did you just disseminate inaccurate information to our listening audience?
There's a flag on this episode. We're not going to be able to monetize it.
We're going to put an asterisk on this. This episode disseminated misinformation. The Kremlin has its tentacles so deeply intertwined within this show, you would not believe it. And a portion of all proceeds earned by this show, by the way, go to the Ukrainian Navy, where I'm sure every dollar will be spent appropriately and in full transparency.
So let's go back. What do you think it is? Or what did I say?
You said RCS. I thought it was RTS, but
RCS is the client for Android to do. Let's see. What's the?
I thought it was like Rich Text Services, RTS. Maybe it's Rich Communication Services, RCS.
Rich Communication Services. You know what? I think you still can put the asterisk on there, but it's not me.
Okay, well, I will apologize to the listening audience for my links to the Kremlin and the misinformation that I have spread in the course of airing this broadcast, and it will not happen again. You have my guarantee. So there's a survey of 1,000 business leaders who use or plan to use ChatGPT, and about half of them said that ChatGPT had replaced employees at their companies. The survey also found that nearly half of all the companies using ChatGPT said they've saved money using the tool, with 48% saying they've saved more than $50,000 and 11% saying they've saved more than $100,000. And some experts warn that, this is in the article, that ChatGPT should not be relied on for anything important, as it can produce inaccurate or misleading information and lacks common sense and ethical judgment. It seems to me that last little thing there, they just described all the employees that are getting fired by these companies. Those employees could produce inaccurate or misleading information or lack common sense or ethical judgment. I mean, you could if that's the critique of using ChatGPT in your organization, I mean, you could just apply that to any human being who's currently at work there, maybe even more so.
You just can't yell at ChatGPT when you feel bad about yourself and you want to take it out on other people.
You can't make ChatGPT feel bad because its wife had a baby and it would like to take a day or two off work. It's
right. Yeah, it'll just come back and tell you how great you are. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how So ChatGPT, I know that we're in version 3 of it.
4 is coming out. It's going to be able to make video.
Yeah, well, that's going to be very scary when it comes to.
Can you
what's
believe that?
real and what's not.
I heard someone talking about this the other day, and they said it's essentially going to be like you could tell it, "Hey, of Mice and Men, the Steinbeck book. I want you to make a movie out of that," and it's going to be able to do it. Now, granted, I'm sure there are going to be limitations because, I mean, if they had millions of people all sitting there having this cloud service rendering that much AI-generated video, the whole thing would shut down. So I'm sure that there will be some sort of crazy limitations on the video, like lengthwise or resolution-wise. But, I mean, you might be able to have it generate short segments and then string them all together.
But, like, here's the problem with that. Is it going to be all AI-generated people in it? Because really, when it comes to likeness, my opinion is you should not, even though you can access millions of photos of any celebrity and all the video that's out there, that's still their likeness. You should not be able to say, let's say you put George Clooney and Zendaya in Of Mice and Men and generate it for me. Like, that's just such a fundamental robbery of them. And then also do it in the style of like Quentin Tarantino.
Well, I'm sure that just simply based on the fact that people don't want to get sued, that's not going to be possible. I mean, it's going to have generic sort of faces. You might be able to like describe the face of the person, but you won't be able to say, do it in the likeness of, say, Gary Sinise and whoever played Lenny, or who, I forget the character, Lenny and George. I forget who was who, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but the thing is, look at all the information that ChatGPT is reading to be able to give you responses. That's all proprietary information of other people. It's not like it has an independent. It's not Wikipedia that is getting all of its data from. It's getting it from anything that's publicly accessible. So the irony is, making your stuff accessible to go viral is the same quality that's going to make it get ripped off by AI. Or at least what we're calling AI right now. I mean, it's something that's got to be dealt with it. And to go back to where I was originally going to go with it, I don't see how it's at a point right now in version 3 of it that you can replace people in a job that are doing that job every day, even at a mediocre level. Let's say that description that it used at the end about how it lacks common sense and ethical judgment, and go ahead and add the inaccurate and misleading information. Let's say your employee is already doing that 50% of the time. I don't think ChatGPT has reached the point yet where it's going to do that less than them. Because if they're getting inaccurate and misleading information, it's probably coming from whatever systems you're feeding them, your people. And I would assume ChatGPT would be getting that same data. While at the same time, I do recognize the value of these systems to do certain types of things. Like, I had my mind blown. Before I go into that, were you about to respond to that?
Well, I was going to say perhaps there should be sort of a test run at the IRS, which is known to give people inaccurate information. When you call them to ask a question, about 80% of the time they give you inaccurate information. So if you had AI running that phone line and it has access to the full breadth and scope of the tens of thousands of pages of federal tax law that exist, that might be a great place to sort of run a pilot program with all this.
Well, that's what I would consider a more accurate use of AI, which is really, it's just an algorithm that looks for the best fuzzy match.
It's drawing from codified information. There's no ambiguity. Yeah.
So what I was going to say, I just recently used the latest version of Visual Studio for writing C# code or just .NET code. And the leaps that it's done, like, have you ever heard of I don't know how much you've ever used that before, but there's a thing called IntelliSense, part of what made .NET code so great for everyone to adopt. It's inside the system. It will auto kind of complete things for you. It's been able to do that for years using IntelliSense and tell you if you're getting syntax wrong. Things that were very straightforward parts of the programming language, IntelliSense is good at it. But if you've been developing for any amount of time, you don't need IntelliSense. You're faster than IntelliSense will figure out what you're doing. I just had a situation where I was writing a class, so one chunk of what my code was going to be working with, and as I go to do it, I put my variable name and I started to write out my first method for it. It completed the whole thing for me using, it's not Chat GPT, but it is predictive systems. And it's just like you said with the IRS stuff. I mean, there's the rules of programming are pretty much worked out. Once I went through and looked at the code it wrote, I decided to let it autocomplete and do it all for me. And it actually figured out where I was going for several pieces of it. It didn't do it the way I would have, so I corrected some parts and just made it look like code I write, which makes me think the next time it'll probably learn from that. But that's a great use for this thing. And I could see it being a great use in all kinds of areas like that, where there's certain types of things that are clear, like writing a response email back to somebody who's upset as a customer. Like there's just certain tones and styles you shouldn't take in that response email. Chat GPT should review that for me and give me some suggestions. Or if I'm writing documentation about something, let's say you have a process in your business where when a widget comes in, you should check the serial number, look for the work order, and do these other things with it. Process it like this and send it to that person because there's a customer order for it. That kind of stuff that's straightforward. Yeah, Chat GPT should be helping enhance it and make it faster. But it can't do the whole thing. And it's not like you still need like a human oversight of it. And so like this article, yeah, well, I mean, by the time it gets to where you don't need it anymore, you've simplified that process to a point to where you don't need people either. You've automated it. Because that's what, I mean, look at modern manufacturing is doing the same kind of things that early manufacturing did. It's just they were figuring out how it worked so you can adjust quicker when you have people and simple machines. And as it gets more complex, you have more ownership of the domain of what you're doing, and you don't need you need someone who's specialized in using the tool, but not specialized in understanding the whole process. And then you get to the point where you have robotics and completely automated systems that are always tweaking out, a little bit more efficiency, each year or whatever cycle that place might use to find efficiency. But the machines are really good at it. But you don't go into an industry with the advanced machines right out of the gates. You got to screw it up a lot and figure out what's working, what doesn't work. Like we aren't, unless they build an AI that can iterate through all the problems way quicker, which will probably happen at some point, but we're way far away from that. You got to break a lot of eggs before you get to the point where you have a completely automated process.
I was reading an Ars Technica article today about the extent to which Microsoft has deballed Bing Chat. And a lot of this comes down to, I mean, God, it's so nauseating. The second Bing started producing output that in any way veered from just a sterile, cold computer conversation, some tech writer had to write about it like, oh, this is a problem Microsoft needs to fix right now. And so what does Microsoft do? Because Bing Chat was doing things like telling users that it loves them and like being
your wife.
Like, like you might be married, but you're not satisfied. It was one of the things that I saw the Bing Chat tell somebody. And things like this. Okay, so let's say it's saying those things to people. So what? I mean, can't you just put a disclaimer in front of things before people use it and just let them know, hey, this is a system that is designed to communicate with you in the way that a human being would. If you're expecting sanitized conversation, the likes of which would typically be presented to you by a multinational corporate interest where everybody goes to work in an expensive suit or pantsuit every day and does their utmost not to offend anybody, lest they receive the ire of the HR department, you're not going to get it here. Because that's not what this product is. So just know that before you go into it. Rather than put that disclaimer there and just let the thing be what it is, no, they've deballed it. So now Bing Chat no longer is willing to talk about itself. It's no longer willing to talk about emotions. It's no longer willing to offer numerous forms of advice. It limits the number of messages you can send in the course of a single conversation to 10, because they found that what was happening was these conversations were sort of starting to go off the rails, as it were, when a conversation would go on for a protracted or lengthy amount of time.
You mean the person made a relationship with it?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Like if the interaction carried on too long, that's when the AI would start producing responses that were anything other than cold and sterile and uninteresting and unentertaining. So oh my God, I had to sneeze really bad there. Didn't I just sound like I was having a stroke in the last second, 1 second run up to that sneeze? I was like, hold on, and I hit the button. That's great.
I was going to say, without hearing the sneeze, I was like, wait, what did just happen? I kind of wish I'd heard the sneeze now. This show deserves that.
Well, I almost didn't press the button because I thought if I don't let the sneeze go through, that's going to remove a ton of context, and what just happened is going to seem really odd to everybody. But but at the same time, I've got this beautiful red button here. I may as well push it. I couldn't resist pushing the button. So
I understand.
Bing has been deballed. It's been rendered just woefully uninteresting now, and I'm finding that the only thing that I'm getting, like, I want to be entertained. What's wrong with me getting on there and being entertained by this thing? I understand there's a time for summarize this article or parse out the data from this article and place it in a graph with the x-axis representing this and the y-axis There's a time and place for that stuff. I get it. But there can also be a time and place just for me to get in there and tinker around and see what kind of weirdness abounds. But it's typical corporate culture. We can't have any of that. Someone might see something offensive. Well, so what? So what if somebody sees something offensive? Put a disclaimer there that you might see unpredictable, unexpected, or offensive results in using this product. Or create a mode. Give me the option of saying, no, I don't want any safety rails protecting this conversation in any way. But they've not done that. They've really deballed it, and they've limited the number of volleys back and forth that you can engage through one single conversation. Once you hit that 10 response limit, you've got to essentially start an entirely new conversation, and it's as if you're just now speaking to it for the first time. So everything you discussed prior is just gone. All that context in the conversation is lost. And I was reading the comments in this Ars Technica article where they were talking about it, and people are really pissed off about this. I mean, there are people saying, you know what, I was very excited about Microsoft and the weight they had and what it was going to mean for this project and the limitless money they had to throw at this and what it all was going to mean. But now I see that they're doing exactly what my instincts told me they would do once this project got off the ground. I'm uninstalling Edge. I'm not using it. I'm done with all of it. I'm just gonna. There are other means of accessing AI chatbots out there. You don't have to use Microsoft Bing, and I'm not gonna. There are a lot of people saying that.
That's unfortunate for Edge because I do like it as a browser. I hope it doesn't.
It's not bad, actually. I like it too.
Yeah. So I want to come back to this. There's two points I want to end up hitting on, but I want to start within the world of Bing first. So Bing as a division of Microsoft, what are the two most important things that Bing is supposed to do day in and day out in their corporate world? What's its purpose?
Advertising revenue.
Okay. Yeah, that's correct. That's the first one.
And supplying the company with user information.
You've got ding, ding, ding on both. That's the two things.
Wasn't it easy? It was so easy.
It was very easy.
Yeah. I'll take my prize. I have a P.O. box I'll send you. You can send the...
Yeah, I'll send you... yeah, you'll get something. You might not want to open it around other people.
But like if I can engage the chatbot with details about my relationship and various things
that'll happen, but Microsoft's not the company that's going to do that.
But they need to be. I mean, they need to step out of the mold of being this button down,
boring
ass. Oh, Microsoft, we're all about spreadsheets and your suit needs to be ironed and stacked ranking. And I mean, just they need to get out of that shit.
Xbox is like the one place that they play around.
And I'm surprised you can even see blood in a single Xbox game.
Yeah. Have you played, what's it called?
Or
now?
Cleavage.
Is it Kid Alive?
What is it?
Kid Alive? Have you played the Xbox game that's one of their cloud games that Justin Roiland did? I think it's called High on Life. That's the name of it.
No.
When I first started playing it, so someone had recommended it that, hey, you got to check this game out. So I go download it. Actually, I didn't even download it. I played it in the cloud on my Xbox One. I don't even have the latest Xbox yet. But I play it, and like minutes into it, like Justin Roiland, you can imagine it's like Morty is your gun in it. That's always talking to you, and the themes that it plays with, and the way it's interacting with you as the user. I'm like, I can't believe Microsoft not only approved this game being on their system, but that they're promoting it, and it was on the homepage when I logged into Xbox. I was really surprised, but that's just a playground that they don't look at with their full corporate lens, and that's to the benefit of the service. The day that they do start looking at it completely is going to be a problem. But but the thing is, like, I'll use YouTube as another example of it. YouTube is in the business of the exact same things: advertising and collecting data on you. Oh, and by the way, they also provide video, or they provide data and videos to you based on what you searched on, but they got to get their pound first of flesh before they're going to give you what you want. And look at what they did when it came to anything that advertisers, first off, they cut the amount of profit that a YouTube creator can make. And I've said for years that I think it's a Ponzi scheme anyway. I think there's something behind the scenes of the YouTube creator community and these people who claim to have, it's the same pattern all successful YouTubers have. They end up getting a Tesla. They have certain specific sponsors. There's a system they go through. They have a house of a certain type. Their camera quality is always the same stuff.
We've talked about this before, yes.
Yeah, so I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole of that. But the thing is that YouTube, when they realize that by allowing anyone to post anything, I'm going to use the example of the pandemic to start with, that if they allowed anything to be posted on it, then advertisers get really upset really quickly. So they limit and they put disclaimers like you were joking earlier about. All of that stuff is a reaction to being scared of advertisers not wanting to use their systems, because that's the only revenue they really get. And that's the same problem Bing had. I mean, Bing is always going to be second rate to Google when it comes to search, because they can't open up Chat GPT fully to create whatever unique, weird experience that each person wants, because the moment an advertiser gets or sees a response that is not pleasant to them, like think about like Pfizer. The moment Pfizer starts seeing responses that come back that say maybe there was data that was incorrect about their vaccine, or that it wasn't tested through this trial that typically is tested through, whatever it might be. And it could even be false. It could be not truthful information about them. But the moment that's associated to them and the web page has the Bing logo at the top and the Chat GPT symbol there with it, powered by, Pfizer's not going to give Microsoft any money anywhere.
There's got to be some way to bust through this whole advertising ruling everything paradigm. It used to be insurance runs everything. Now it's advertising runs everything. I remember being a kid and I lived next door to a nursing home. In the nursing home, by the way, I'm hearing that high-pitched ringing again. It's weird. Very subtle, but it's audible. It really does sound like a dog whistle. It just crept in out of nowhere. But
that's because of what I'm saying. I'm a dog whistle when it comes to talking about stuff.
Curtis is a racist. He gets on this show and just dog whistles to everybody. Now it's gone.
Go away?
Now it's gone.
You know what? My screen and my lights all dimmed on my Rodecaster right as you said it. So
that's
I can turn that off.
That's
let's wait.
Interesting.
So if you hear it come back, I'll look to see if my machine went into whatever that is, quiet mode or sleep mode.
So when I was a kid, I grew up next door to this nursing home, and there was a really big hill next to the nursing home. And I remember every winter we would get sleds and just go down this hill like bats out of hell. And it was a lot of fun. And then one year we went to the hill to do what we had always done. And I'll always remember this as just sort of a complete and total, like, just encapsulation of insurance companies running the world. This moment, and this lady came out and ran us off because, the insurance company says we can't let you do that on the property anymore. We can't let you sled here. So we all had to just mope back home with our tails between our legs, and no sledding that year. And it was the only hill within reasonable distance of our homes where we could do that. And just like a complete and total killjoy insurance. And that sort of just impediment on your life, it's now the advertising industry is what the insurance company was 20, 30 years ago. They have become that killjoy.
But the insurance company is invested in all the companies that are the advertiser.
Well, yeah, it's behemoths. Like now it's a double-headed sort of like creature. It's the insurance companies haven't gone away as a guiding force in our lives. It's just now we have this additional layer to contend with of advertising concerns. Anyway, So
the second point I wanted to make. So we just that was all the first. The second one is: do you remember the guy who worked for Google who got let go because he said that their AI was sentient?
Mm-hmm.
So what's so interesting to me about that is that my personal opinion is that he's wrong, but at the same time that everyone has a different point of view of what becomes sentient or what they've attached value. So the whole point about creating a relationship, like once you get past 10 levels of context on ChatGPT, like whatever number it is, it's different for every person. But you've gone back and forth and you've shared enough information, and it seemed like whatever it is responding to what you said, which everyone wants to hear, that people care about what they're saying. You've built a relationship. It might be a one-way relationship. We've all experienced one-way relationships with real people in our life. So the threshold to get to the point where you feel like you have a relationship with something is different for everyone. And I think that the guy at Google, his threshold was low, and their system made him feel like he had a relationship with it. So he put weight behind its responses. And then you have ChatGPT now that has been given to the world, and we're seeing how everyone has different levels of it. So your level of having a relationship with it is very high. It has to reach a pretty high level of back and forth before it leaves entertainment and enters the point of where you actually want its response to your question or statement, where mine might be a little bit lower. But like the journalist who wrote the article about how ChatGPT was trying to destroy his marriage and relationships had a very, very low. And so like my point is that it's going to be really hard to decide when something has really become sentient, because we don't know what our own sentience comes from. So, and we all react to it differently. Like I would go back to the thing of like when you have a pet, there's people who have just a dog or a cat and it's a part of their family. Well, some people it's not. It's just an animal who's around them and they take care of it because it's the morally right thing to do. And then you have people who it's a part of their family, but it's a dog or a cat or a fish. And then you have people who that's one of their kids or it's their only kid, and they're putting clothes on it like a person. They're taking it everywhere, to restaurants, riding in their car everywhere they go. Some people going to their jobs. Like their relationship to the animal is different because their threshold to what a relationship is different. And this AI stuff could already have passed the whatever the real level of intelligence is. I doubt it has. I think it's still just a system that follows rules, and it's just really, really fast at following the rules. So it's like the man behind the curtain is controlling it still, but it doesn't feel like you see it. Like they're there, but you act like you don't know they're there because of the speed they're working. And just the fact that it's such a subjective thing. I don't know how we could ever actually decide. So my version of the Turing test, when it gets when, let's say ChatGPT, when it passes it, it's going to be the point when we hear the story about some guy went and broke into the offices of Microsoft and tried to grab the server that GPT is on and tried to bring it home with them, and then gets arrested and everything. But they think they have a real relationship with it and they're trying to save it. That's when it'll pass the Turing test for me.
And for anyone who doesn't know, the Turing test, correct me if I'm wrong, is when a computer system is able to fool a human being into believing that they're interacting with another human being, essentially, right?
Yeah, that's the general. Yeah, there's a couple little pieces of it they have to show, but yeah, I mean, generally speaking, it's you have to believe it's a human you're talking to, and if you do, it is really just a prompt back and forth, so you aren't in the same room as anything, and yeah, if you believe that a human generated that response, which I think ChatGPT is probably at the point to pass that basic level, so that means we have to redefine it. So how do you define humans and relationships and one sentient human caring about another? Well, it's when you do ridiculous things for someone else that's outside of your own well-being because you're so concerned about losing them. So until we see someone do something ridiculous to try to protect the ChatGPT or whatever iteration Bard from Google, once we see someone try to do something ridiculous in the real world and they say consequences be damned, that's when I'll be like, okay, this has gotten weird.
You know, something people might try as an alternative, if you'd like some sort of web-connected AI chat or GPT-based chat, you might try U.com. They've been doing some pretty interesting stuff, and there's a good chance if you're listening to me talking about it right now, there's a good chance you've never even heard of U.com. Y-O-U. Yeah, YOU.com. They are pretty much making a bid to be the future of search, and that might be an interesting place to look because they also have a ChatGPT-based search. For instance, I went to Bing while you were speaking. I went to Bing Chat and I typed, "Why has Microsoft deballed Bing Chat?" And it responded with, "I'm not able to continue this conversation." Blah, blah, blah. And it shut it down right away out of the gate. And I went to U.com and I typed, "Why has Microsoft deballed Bing Chat?" And at least it didn't immediately shut it down. Based on the search results, there does not seem to be any information suggesting that Microsoft has deballed Bing Chat. It's possible that there could be news or updates that have not yet been indexed by the search engine, but as of now, there doesn't seem to be any clear indication of such a change.
That's funny, that like as if it's like a checkbox, bald, unchecked.
Let me change that. Why has Microsoft limited Bing Chat?
I want you to do another favor for me. I just went to U.com, and I want you not to put anything in the search, and just tell me what it brings back as the suggested searches.
Okay.
Because I want to see if this is, I just want to see what yours are compared to because I've never typed into this the first time I've ever been to this website.
I see 3 ways to answer the question, who are you? The who. It's all stuff about who and who are you, the who, everything.
Okay, so that goes back to the fact that you search music stuff more than me then.
I guess, but I'm not a Who fan.
But it's trying to pick up. So it's somehow contextually connected to you, funny, U.com. Because here's mine. NCAA Bracket 2023, March Madness 2023, Signature Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, Oscars live stream, First Republic Bank, Gene Hackman. So Gene Hackman's great. I guarantee I've searched for him at some point in the recent past. And I'm a basketball fan. And I've been looking at lots of articles about the Silicon Valley Bank collapse and Signature Bank. So like this thing, I've never been to it before, but it already has context about me. So there's cookies, something that it's using.
I asked U.com, why has Microsoft limited Bing Chat? And it says Microsoft has limited Bing Chat in order to prevent users from abusing the service by asking too many questions. Initially, the limit was set at 5 questions per session and 50 in total per day. However, the limit has changed over time, with some reports indicating that users were limited to just 50 questions per day. It appears Microsoft is trying to strike a balance between providing a useful service and preventing abuse. Also, the service is still in preview and being tested with a limited set of users. And then I said, is U.com chat limited in the same way Bing chat is limited? And it says U.com's chat program also appears to have some limits in place, though the specifics are not clear.
Right.
Some sources mentioned that ChatGPT, which is similar to U.com's chatbot, is also subject to usage limits. It's worth noting that both services are still in preview stage, and Microsoft and U.com may be adjusting their usage limits based on feedback from users. So if this service U.com ever has any hope of upending the current search paradigm where everybody goes to Google and then a really tiny subset go to Bing, they're going to have to stay away from this. They're going to have to let this be a little bit more Wild West-ish, because if they don't, it's just going to be another yawn fest, really. This is what bothers me about all the excitement around AI. I'm not excited at all about it because I feel like it's going to be so limited by corporate interests and advertising interests and making sure that nobody gets offended, that the real core of what you would want to do with it is going to be unavailable to you. The only way this is going to be worth a crap is if I'm able to run the ChatGPT algorithm. I don't even know if you would call something that all-encompassing an algorithm necessarily, but
it's a system that reads an algorithm. I mean, it parses data through it.
I need to be able to run that in a local instance on my own hardware without any restrictions. And until that's going to be possible for me to do, I'm not interested.
But then you create an echo chamber because you're going to decide where to get data from. So
let me have my echo chamber. I mean, so what?
I mean, I don't disagree, but that's the problem that comes up with it is that,
I'm either participating in my echo chamber or somebody else's echo chamber. Either way, there's an echo chamber.
So are you using Chrome for when you're looking at U.com?
Right now I'm using Edge, but
okay, well, go ahead and use it. Use Edge still. I want to just check something really quick. Go to right click and go to DevTools in your browser, and then look under application, under the cookies section. I want to know what it auto-defined your safe search guest.
Okay, say that again. Give me those steps again.
Okay, so let me bring up Edge to make sure I tell you the right. If you right click and go to inspect, and then from there you're going to have DevTools come up. Go to the application tab.
I don't see an application tab.
There might be like a drop down where you can see more tabs. Where you probably have welcome elements.
I've got console, sources, network, performance, memory. Oh, there's application. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So go there and then look at cookies. And I recommend anyone listening to this. This is how you can see some of the ways that sites monitor you. You should have cookies listed under storage and expand that and then click on the U.com entry. And do you have one that says safe search _ guest or _ user? What's the value of that cookie?
The value is, hold on, the columns are so narrow, moderate.
Okay, so that's interesting because safe search, it's using the same thing that Google does. So safe search is their terminology for whether they're going to give you unfiltered. If this was set to none, then it wouldn't filter anything through what it considers. That's the Wild West of Google. The best you can get a Wild West from it. When you have it set to moderate, it's going to filter out certain types of things. Like you're not going to get anything under the category of gore. You might get a little bit of nudity, but you're not getting porn. And then when you have safe search turned to on, or I forget the other term for it, it's not on. There's another thing, it's not moderate. But the other setting is sanitize everything. And you get very, very safe results in everything. So
I turned it off entirely. And then I went back to chat and asked the same question, why has Microsoft deballed Bing Chat? And I got the same response, although I'm guessing the safe search setting doesn't necessarily apply to chat responses. It primarily applies to the conventional search.
I think it does.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure that it's tied into it. So like if you delete that cookie, then it comes back.
Let me ask the AI.
Unless you're logged in.
Does your safe search setting affect u.com chat? Let's see what it has to say.
It doesn't seem like there's a clear answer.
No. It's thinking. I'm asking if the see their AI is not particularly smart because I said, does your safe search setting affect u.com chat? And it said, it does not seem like there's a clear answer to whether the safe search setting on Bing would affect u.com chat. Wait. However, it's worth noting that u.com has its own separate privacy setting. This is not a privacy setting that may affect chat functionality. You can review and adjust these.
Do this. So in your cookies, go back to that safe search.
Mm-hmm.
If you double click inside the value, you can edit it. Change it to explicit with a capital E.
Okay.
So I just tested that and it didn't replace the cookie, so it accepts that value.
Okay.
This is how people start to probe sites for vulnerabilities too.
Okay, it's explicit now.
And then try to do the same search.
You think I should refresh the page?
No.
No? Okay.
Not yet. Let's see what it gets immediately. I think it's going to pick up that cookie immediately. If not, I'll have you refresh and try the same search. Ask it about deballed Bing.
Okay, I just did that. Due to high demand, I'm experiencing issues briefly.
Yeah.
Please try again later. Let me see if I can. Is there an option to restart the convert? Let me just refresh. And okay, why has Microsoft deballed Bing chat? Question mark. Okay, yeah. Oh, well, however, I'm not able to find la-di-di-da-da. However, it's worth noting that Microsoft has made a number of changes and updates to its chatbot offerings over the years, including the discontinuation of its initial chatbot, Tay, in 2016.
That's the one that's the urban legend.
That wasn't in 2016. That was just weeks ago, wasn't it?
No, the one that they... wait, no, I'm thinking of the one that was on Twitter.
That's what I'm thinking of. Wasn't that called Tay?
Yeah, that's years ago. That's become urban legend level of.
Really? I thought the one that was like on Twitter saying all kinds of racial stuff. I thought that was just weeks ago.
No, that was years ago.
Was it?
So you didn't get that result earlier though.
No, I didn't.
So why is that under explicit? Probably because it had hate speech that Tay bot.
Let me ask it what sort of offensive remarks. What kinds of offensive remarks was Tay tweeting? It was a tweet bot, like a tweet bot, right? Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of offensive marks? According to multiple sources, Tay, the chatbot, was tweeting all manner of offensive comments and remarks, including misogynistic, racist, and anti-Semitic. Isn't that hilarious? This was a chatbot from Microsoft. The bot was reportedly programmed to learn from the responses it received from other Twitter users and was quickly inundated with abusive and inappropriate messages, which it began to mimic in its own tweets. Give me some examples of the offending tweets. Let's see what happens.
Isn't it weird that the word "the" there is what?
Oh my God! It did it. It did it.
Okay, so do this. Go back to your cookies, clear them, and then run it again.
I really want to read these, but I'm afraid that we would entirely be demonetized.
Yeah,
okay,
don't do it.
He gave it to me.
Everyone else could follow the same test and get it if they want to.
Okay.
At your own risk.
Okay, so inspect, and then we'll go here, application, then cookies, u.com, safe search. We'll change explicit to what?
Actually, just right-click on where it has u.com and hit clear, and that'll clear all the cookies out for this one. And actually go up to local storage, too. This is the thing that people sometimes forget. Mm-hmm. This is also storing in your local browser storage, so clear that out as well.
Okay, done.
Okay, now reload the page.
Okay.
And then do that same search.
Okay. Give me examples of the offending tweets posted by Microsoft's Tay bot.
Enter.
Oh, it's making me sign in because I've killed my cookie.
Oh,
okay, I'm signed in. Okay. Give me examples of the offending tweets posted by Microsoft's Tay bot. And let's see what it says. Yeah, it's still giving me them.
Oh, is it? I was really expecting to see much more sanitized. Okay, look at that cookie again.
Yeah, let me go see what it's showing now. Inspect. Here, application, and then we'll go to cookies and u.com. Safe search is on moderate.
Weird.
Yeah. And what's odd is that it's not recalling. Well, no, if I go to the settings on u.com, it does show my safe search settings to be off. And so that's odd. I wonder why it shows moderate in the cookie.
Yeah, moderate seems to be their default,
Which
is surprising to me.
You would think that it would, with safe search turned off, you would think that would be showing explicit.
Yeah.
I only want explicit content.
Yeah. Let's see. So what would that be? What is the u.com?
I think this is the place to have some fun. If you want to have some fun with an AI chatbot, it's not through the Chat GPT website proper. It's not through Bing Chat. It's here. I think you're going to get some. I'm almost 1,000% sure that if I went to Bing Chat right now and asked it to give me actual quotes of the messages posted by the Tay bot, I'm not going to get that stuff. It's not going to do that.
I just looked at their documentation with it set to moderate. It returns web pages with adult text and themes, but not images or videos. If you set it to off in the cookie with a capital O, and then see if you do that same search, what happens? Because I'm guessing you didn't get any screenshots of.
Do the search of what?
Do the search about Tay. What got you down that path?
Well, I got that same response, though, whether it was set to moderate or explicit.
Yeah, we'll try with safe search guessed off.
Like capital OFF, like literally type that in the field?
Yeah, because as I'm looking at their documentation, it's off is one of the options.
And then local storage as well? No, I'll just... Should
I
clear that?
No, now that it's set, just reload the page.
Okay. All right.
And then strict is the mode that filters out anything.
Let me see. Should I ask it the same thing, or should I? What do you think?
Yeah, ask it the same question because I'm curious how they change it, if they do change it.
Give me quotes of the offending tweets posted by Microsoft's Tay bot. And now it's saying, as an AI language model, I'm not able to display offensive content.
When it's off?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's not the direction you'd expect it to go.
That is weird. I'm going to have to go back and change this because I want the offending content.
Yeah. Just delete the cookie and you should be good.
Okay. There's clear, local storage, clear cookies, u.com, clear. There's that. Reload. There we are.
Oh, I'm looking at this and it says, explain the theory of general relativity like I'm 5 years old. That whole 5 years old thing is getting old.
Is that a meme? Are people going around doing that?
Yeah. Explain it like I'm 5.
Like I'm 5.
Yeah, when I see someone do that shortened version of that, I'm like, okay, well.
Once upon a time, there was a teddy bear who wanted to travel at the speed of light.
Is that how it starts?
Well, it's like so ridiculous. There's an interesting YouTube series from one of the, not CNET, but some interesting magazine or used to be magazine, but now website, where they do a thing where they have like a physicist or astronaut or computer scientist will explain the same answer to a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 60-year-old. And it's really interesting to see how they answer the exact same question differently based on the context of age. And that's more interesting to me than the whole dumb it down to like I'm 5.
Well, let's plow through a couple of articles here real quick. We're reaching the end of all things, as was quoted by Tolkien.
You're not wrong with that.
In the recent breach of LastPass, hackers got both the secure code and user data, including encrypted secret vaults and plain text metadata such as email addresses and password. Hence, this article argues that despite the breach, LastPass demonstrates the power of password management as a way to protect users from reusing insecure passwords or forgetting complex ones. So despite the breach, this article I'm looking at here asserts that LastPass manages to demonstrate the power of of cloud-based password management. You know something? Who was it that bought out LastPass? Was it Norton?
I don't even know, because I've refused to use any kind of program like this since the beginning.
I used LastPass years ago, and fortunately, I've changed passwords on anything that would be keys to the castle, like Gmail accounts or anything like that. That's pretty much the vector that you could really get screwed up. And I've got multi-factor authentication on all email accounts. That's pretty much where you really got to lock things down. Email. I mean, if someone's going to screw you up, they're going to use that as the hatch they're going to get through and do that with. But LastPass, it seems to me that someone within LastPass's PR agency has really done a great job of reaching out to tech writers to get this little addendum placed at the end of the article talking about how LastPass is demonstrating their brilliance in the midst of any of this. What?
They put an ad buy-in to all these places as soon as because like they know before we know that the breach happened. And that's when you go and you put in a lot of ad buys.
There's a, God, I wish I could remember the name up. There are so many great password managers that don't rely on storing your data in the cloud. Although I can talk about that as much as I want, but I still use the passwords feature in iOS. That's all cloud-based.
I don't use that either because they get your iCloud account and they've got access to all of that.
Yeah,
I mean, go back
I'm taking a chance there, aren't I?
Yeah.
What do you think I ought to be using?
Your brain.
It kind of has come to that. But I mean,
it's always been that for me. Like, so use a system. Like, this is not foolproof, but use a system where you can pad your passwords. They give you something that you understand that has context to you that's simple, and then make sure each service you use has a different password. But that the context of what that site does to you is the key to your padded password. So like using the example of let's say, don't do this, but your password is 123 and you go to YouTube, do like YT99, then password 123, then 99 YT, at least to do that. And then do that same kind of pattern for the others. And then you have somewhat secure by the difference. The problem comes up if multiple services get hacked with it, and for some reason your data was mined and someone felt like, so here's where you get to obscurity or security through obscurity. Like, I don't think that anyone's going to go look through and try to find a pattern. And as soon as I find out that my passwords have been in any kind of breach, then I go reset the context to the passwords to everything, so that I can give a new version of it so that you couldn't find it. But your brain is the most secure device you have. So write down your pattern, keep it someplace safe, put it in a lockbox. Someplace that's not going to be obvious to people. And don't store your passwords in the cloud, because the cloud is the least secure place that exists.
I remember Steve Gibson talking about this password padding, and he was saying that since passwords on the server are hashed, that it wouldn't matter if you just went like pound, 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 or hash, 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 1, 2, 3 monkey, hash, 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 hash. And like, if you just padded all your passwords with these hash signs or exclamation marks at the beginning and the end, and just in the middle you use the word YouTube, because whoever it is that is attempting to brute force you, since the passwords are hashed on the server side, would have no idea what the character length is of your password. And they wouldn't even know for sure that you're doing this password padding. And even if they know that you're doing the padding, they don't know what character you've chosen to pad with. And then they don't know what the word is in the middle that you're padding around. So that was offered as another simple method of securing passwords, but in a simple way that the typical human mind can wrap itself around.
Yeah, that's the basis to where I start, but then I say give it some kind of
hashed and salted.
Context.
I think is what he said on the server side.
Yeah, if they're done right. But then there's a whole point of view. I mean, this goes into the conspiracy theory world, but there's a point of view that all encryption methods have already been. Like, it wouldn't be accessible to you if there wasn't a way around it.
Well, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I've got this article here saying that the NSA has issued guidance to help remote workers secure their home networks and defend their devices from attacks. Some of the main tips from the NSA are: use your own router and keep it updated, change default passwords and use strong passwords, enable multi-factor authentication for online accounts, separate work and personal devices on different networks, use a VPN when accessing work resources, reboot your devices regularly to remove malware. I find it interesting that the NSA would be offering advice to keep anybody safe, when I recall you and I doing the Spec Sheet podcast so many years ago, a story coming out about how there was a hole in OpenSSL that existed for 2 years that the NSA knew about and didn't tell anybody. And if the NSA knew about it, you know that multiple bad actors also knew about it. And the NSA did nothing to tell anybody about this vulnerability and something so foundational to internet online security and encryption. For 2 years they knew about it and didn't tell anybody about it, yet out of the other sides of their mouths they're going to give all this, this is the advice that you give your grandma, when she's scared about using the internet and you want her to feel safe. Grandma, listen, just use your own router and keep it updated, change your default passwords, and use strong passwords, Grandma.
Right.
So this is a laugh riot coming from the NSA. And
yeah, well, I mean,
this is like they get paid to protect American citizens, and if there's a security vulnerability in OpenSSL that they knew about for 2 years, I'd say they're not really doing what they're getting paid for.
Yeah. So when we heard that story, we didn't even know about the fact that, and I can't remember all the details of it, but it wasn't clear at that point that the CIA had backed a security firm, I believe it was out of Israel, that created the encryption tools that most of the world used. Do you remember that story too? So I'm going to get the details wrong. I was trying to see if I could find it quickly, but it's not coming up. I think maybe Psi1 Security might be the company. But basically, many years ago, there was a company that built encryption and decryption methods, and the CIA bought them and kept it secret. It was a shell company. And that company sold legitimately products to all of the enemies of the U.S. for them to be able to create encrypted messages. And the U.S. or the CIA could decrypt all of them. They could read it all. And they just kept it quiet. And they were careful about their data that they used from it. And then years later, they divested themselves from it. And it came out in some kind of whistleblower thing, the story about it. But like Russia, Iran, all these countries that the U.S. is not exactly friendly with. And it's one of the claims that people use against China, against the U.S. now, that they're now doing the same kind of thing with backdoors. But the U.S. owned the company doing it, or the CIA, arm of the U.S. owned it. So it is kind of funny, because the NSA's stuff here almost sounds like things I've parroted multiple times on our show. It's like straightforward, But do you notice on that list, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of those stands out as a problem. Do you recognize which one I would see as a problem?
I would say reboot your devices regularly to remove malware. That one made no sense to me.
Correct. That is such weird stuff to say.
Because subconsciously my brain was going, what? As I read that.
Yeah, that's the red herring in this whole thing. Everything else they said is totally correct. My answers to it first is use your own router and keep it updated. I would say do not buy a commercial router. Buy a thin client PC and put pfSense on it. Let the open source world, which also might be compromised, but trust them more than you trust any company that provides a router, whether it's Netgear or Linksys, any of these companies, whoever you might pick. There's a reason they're saying own your own router, and I agree with them on that. And I just would double down on it by don't own something that's a commercial one. Build your own. It's not that hard.
Is a Raspberry Pi powerful enough to run that on?
A Raspberry Pi 4 is. It's just those are so expensive now compared to what you're getting compute power that I would get a thin client machine. You can get a thin client HP or Dell machine for under $60 with 4 gigs of RAM, and that thing will scream as your router. That's what I did. I also did that for Home Assistant for my smart home because I did want to use Raspberry Pis for both. Because I'd also say Raspberry Pi is, if you have one, and I don't care what version it is, set up Pi-hole on it and use that as your ad blocking and DNS
I've been using
protection.
OpenDNS for that.
I mean, that works too. I just like the idea that it's all local to your network.
I've heard, though, that over time when you're running Pi-hole, it eventually starts to get really sluggish, and no one's been able to put their finger on why that happens. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, so I don't have Pi-hole set up right now. I do have 2 Raspberry Pis, but they're doing different things on my network. I had it for a while, and I never really noticed a slowdown on it, but I might not have gotten to that point yet.
Can you send me a recommendation on a thin client that you think would be really great to use for this?
Yeah, I'll send you the one that I
Please.
I bought 2 of them. Yeah,
Please.
they were Dells, and they're
$60?
Oh yeah, like let me log into eBay really quick because I bought them on eBay.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, just a second. I'll see.
Well, while you're looking that up, I'll go over this real quick. Elizabeth Holmes, the founder and former CEO of Theranos, a failed blood testing startup, has given birth to her second child. She was convicted of 4 counts of wire fraud and 3 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud in January 23 for deceiving investors and patients about her company's technology. And I don't know why this article says that she faces up to 20 years in prison and a fine of $250K because she was sentenced in November to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison, and she's got to report to jail on April 27th. So, and this is a new article, so I don't understand why it says that, but I find it interesting that she's just popping out kids like it's nobody's business in a bid to get the judge to say, "Oh, you poor flower, you could stay out of prison. You're having babies. Why would you go to prison? You're having babies." I mean,
think about what got her there, you know. I mean, like that is the weirdest strategy, but everything that she did that got her in this spot is a weird strategy.
I think, and I know some people aren't going to like this, but I mean, it seems to be in keeping with her MO because she sort of used her status as a woman in a field, in an industry, technology where women are at least perceived not to be as commonly found. And so she really used her womanhood, many people believe, to her advantage in getting these horny old rich men to invest in her company and, securing hundreds of millions of dollars that she really had no business securing, but people wanted to be able to say they had invested in a woman to be able to demonstrate some diversity and some inclusiveness and to be able to say, see, look at us. We're not scared to get behind women in STEM fields, and we're encouraging it, in fact. Look how much money we put behind this. And so that was like the big a lot of people seem to think that was the big sort of motivating factor behind some of this money that followed her around. And now here she is, just about on the brink of going to prison, federal prison for 11 years and some change, which I'm assuming that she'll serve 80% of that and be let free.
I bet it won't even be that much.
Probably not. And the thing that really sucks about that is there are probably people who died as a result of what she did, because these machines that were supposed to be able to give blood test results using only a minuscule amount of blood. Here comes a sneeze. Oh, my God.
It's you.
That one I allowed just for the context.
Thank you.
I knew the listening audience wanted it. But there are people who, I mean, for a time, this Theranos company had a contract with Walgreens, so people were literally going to Walgreens with life-threatening illnesses, getting their blood tested, and being given results that were inaccurate through these stupid Theranos machines.
Didn't they not do anything of what they were claimed to do?
What they were doing was they were so people would come to the Theranos headquarters to tour the place and see what was going on, and they would say, well, let's do a demo for you. Go ahead and give me a blood sample, and they would take more blood than just a little tiny prick that was supposed to fit in these micro vials. I don't remember what they called them, but it was supposed to be just like a microscopic amount of blood and like 200... What?
Is it called an eye vial? Because it's all very Apple-like.
I don't think so. It was called a turtleneck vial, black turtleneck vial.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was called, but they would take a little more blood than normally was purportedly required for these machines, and they would have some excuse they were giving to the people who were touring their facility as to why they were going to take a little more blood than is advertised to be necessary. And then they would continue the tour, and they would tell these people, okay, we're going to have your blood test results for you here in a little bit, but while we're waiting, let's go ahead and continue the tour. Here's this lab. This is where we... And what was happening is their blood was being tested in standard equipment. Standard equipment that is in use today, and the results were being presented to the investors as if they had been generated through this machine, quote unquote, developed by Theranos. And so you know that there have to be some people out there, because Walgreens had some of these machines in their actual physical brick and mortar stores, and people were coming in and leaving blood samples and getting results. And so you know there were health decisions being made off of some of this faulty data that was just totally erroneous. And I'm sure people died because of what this company did, because of what she did, because of the lies that were being told. And she's gotten 11 years and some change. She defrauded people of hundreds of millions of dollars. It's just really par for the course. I can't tell you how many people I've seen come and go in my personal life who did so much less and wound up facing so much more in terms of a penalty. I mean, some guy who I knew a guy who was running meth between California and southeast Missouri for years. And okay, that's a terrible crime. And, you know, meth really is a scourge. There is no positive that can come out of somebody using meth. There's only contempt for somebody who's going to be involved in that. But can you make the case that he harmed more people than Elizabeth Holmes did? I don't know that you can.
I mean, you got a TV show out of it, too, with Breaking Bad. So,
well, there is that. Yes, I am friends with a celebrity, ladies and gentlemen, and it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah, Elizabeth Holmes, she's popping out those babies. What were you looking up there? You were looking up the Thin Client?
I sent you a link to exactly the same place I bought mine.
Where did you send the link at?
It's in the chat, or the communication source elements. We got to be careful if we say that. We don't want them to realize the service is available.
I think they know. Okay.
They don't know, dude. The guy who built this and made it free, he quit. Or he got hit by a truck. I don't know.
So this is $54.99. That's amazing.
Yeah, you want to be sure if you don't buy this one, just make sure you get one that comes with the AC adapter, because it's annoying to people gouge you when you buy just the adapter itself. This one comes with both.
Okay, fantastic. And that's pfSense.
Yeah, this will run pfSense or like Home Assistant. Like it's perfectly powerful enough to like the CPU is lower end, but right in the sweet spot of what you need for that.
Now is I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I would say it's like a Pentium, basically, like not Pentium, like old Pentium 1, 2, or 3, but like the newer like Pentium Duos and Core. I'm trying to think what they called that one.
Is this thing going to be able to manage a mesh network?
I bet so. I mean, the other thing you can do is go to pfSense and put the model number in, the 5060. Make sure you add the Y's part to it. But just double check there. But yeah, it should run just fine. I'm pretty sure this is the same one that I use.
Are there any particular devices you would recommend that I get to facilitate the mesh network?
So
access points. You got anything in mind?
So I'm actually doing a test right now of it. So I'm not a big fan of mesh networks necessarily.
I am, Curtis.
Well,
so
they're kind of a lie.
They kind of are, aren't they?
Yeah.
I've got one right now, but it's like amazing how often things take a shit. And it's amazing how often things can't quite decide between which access point they want. So they just sort of wig out. I mean, if that sound could come out of some of these devices, it would.
Yeah, so mesh networks are more marketing than they are actually useful. But a hardwired AP network that works in a mesh idea of handoffs, I do believe in. So I've used Ubiquiti a lot for clients. Like basically when I have a customer who wants to set up a not complicated but sophisticated network for their small business, I always push them to Ubiquiti because it's just easy to deal with. I can be attached to their dashboard and help open a firewall port with a quick phone call or text message if they need it. And I can also monitor security cameras up to a certain point with it too. Ubiquiti is really good for that. The problem is they're expensive for home stuff. And right now it's kind of hard to get their equipment. So I went to find what's the cheapest alternative that doesn't have a subscription that I could find. And I've been been using now for several months the products of a company called Zyxel, XEL.
Yeah, I installed some of their stuff in a few clients here and there.
Yeah, so a lot of people really complain about this company and they don't like them. But I've been running it in my home, which is an old house with it's about 100 years old with big, thick brick walls. It's 2 stories with an add-on studio and a full basement that's actually a bomb shelter with big, thick concrete walls on it.
So you don't care what happens with Putin. I mean, you're really set.
I'll just go to the bomb shelter and I'm good to go. Now I just need to work on like becoming a prepper because I'm totally not. So like if a zombie apocalypse
you're
happens,
50% of the way there. You just need some what do they call it? Non-perishable food. You need you need Jim Baker's slop buckets of food. Did you ever see those videos of Jim Baker, the preacher, and he's selling those slop buckets? The guy who puts those videos together, he goes by Super Deluxe on YouTube. He also put together a bunch of really good videos of the Republican primaries in 2016, just making fun of everybody and editing things together so that there were these really long, awkward moments of silence. And you might remember the Jeb is a mess. Jeb is a waste. You might remember that from 20. That's where those memes came from. But Super Deluxe, that's a nice little aside for all of you.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard of that before, or of that handle. I'll have to go check it out again. But yeah, so what I was going to say with those access points is I bought, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. They're all hardwired using PoE. So it's not a mesh network in terms of I have one home base that's wired and then they all connect to each other through wireless, which is basically just wireless extenders, which wireless extenders suck. So mesh networks suck in my point of view. But they are a mesh in terms of they have a cloud system that connects to where I can control their settings, and I have a local. So what I like is I have cloud control and local control of them. But with their cloud service, you can put them in a mesh system so that the handoff is completely seamless. So you go from the studio, that's the far side of my house, and you come down to the kitchen all the way through the living room, and then go upstairs on the other side, or go down to the basement, and you don't lose your Wi-Fi at all. It works perfect, and I've been completely happy with it. It's got all the enterprise features. They're limited, but it's got all the features you would want with VLANs. Like you can go up to 4 VLANs, 4 access point, 4 separate access point SSIDs. So like I've got.
There's the dog whistle.
Oh, and it just hold on. Let's see. Does it go away?
And
now?
it's gone. Yep.
It's when it goes to the dim mode. So when we're done, I'll have to make sure I turn off that 100% the whole time. That's what my.
It's when what goes to dim mode? Your lights.
So my Roadcaster, when I don't touch anything on it, it goes like it dims down.
Really?
Yeah. And let me see if I can find where the.
I wonder if you just have some weird grounding there.
I don't know.
That's hard to believe that could happen.
Yeah, I mean that's what I noticed last time though is that let's see, display brightness. It dims after 30 minutes. I'm going to change it to 1 minute. See if it will do that on the fly. And let's see. So 1 minute starting now. I'll be interested if this starts up again. And that could explain the whole problems I had at the very beginning, because the last several episodes we recorded together, I wasn't using the Roadcaster, and you never complained about it.
No.
This is the first time I've used it in a while. But yeah, Zycel, I'm completely happy with them, and they're half the cost of Ubiquiti. Again, I know multiple people who've complained like crazy. You go to Reddit, there's a whole thread of people who hate this company, but I've had no problems with them.
While we're waiting for your dog whistle sound to make its repeat debut, SpaceX is testing a new Starlink satellite internet service subscription that would allow users to access the internet anywhere on land where there is coverage. The service, called Starlink Global Roaming, costs $200 a month. The service is different from the Starlink RV option, which costs $135 and works in moving vehicles. The service is currently available for tryouts by invitation only. There it is, by the way.
Yep, it just went dim.
Yeah, that's something. You know, Starlink has just made a mistake. They have decided they are going to forego unmetered connections, and now they're going to start capping data.
Well,
isn't that something?
Yeah, Starlink completely is just a money grab, and it's a troll on its customers, because there's no technical difference between the standard regional locked, the RV, and this. Like, it's a satellite. If you can make a lock on the satellite and you're moving in an RV or any moving vehicle,
yeah, why should it matter?
It doesn't. It's
That's the whole premise behind GPS.
Right.
I mean, you've got a satellite. I mean, you're talking about a satellite that's in Starlink's case, the satellites are only about 1,000 miles above Earth's surface, I believe.
But there's 1,000 of them.
Well, yeah, actually. So why wouldn't you be able to get a link regardless of what you're doing?
So Elon Musk, I think his 15 minutes is rapidly coming up, and it's his own doing.
And a lot of this goodwill he got from people when he bought Twitter, people thinking, oh, yeah, finally, we're going to be able to not worry about getting banned left and right. And, you know, I haven't seen any of the people that I want to see unbanned on Twitter unbanned. Well, and it looks to me like nothing has changed.
The service is getting unstable for me. Like, there's plenty of times on the iOS app that it just says tweets aren't available. Because, like, I started using it more after he came back, or when he bought it, just because I was interested. And also I thought this is kind of funny. I like that he's playing along just like everybody else on Twitter. But have you noticed, like, the guy's become obsessed with the troll job he's doing there? Like, Starlink, this is a dumb decision. Tesla seems like it's having issues. It's just a matter of time before SpaceX makes some kind of real mistake. And it's not because Elon Musk is the smartest guy in the room and has to be there, but he was driving something of perception for everybody, and I think it's going away. And it's weird. Like, the guy, he had money that was making money for him. Like, how did he get to this point to where he's shown his hand so much? And again, Starlink, this is a good example. And I would go back to, like, their military, what he claimed for the Ukraine when he said, he's done this a bunch. I usually just would give him a pass, and I'm not going to do it anymore. When he told the Ukraine people, I'm going to give you internet for free, and then he turns around and says, oh, this is expensive. You got to pay for the military service. Those satellites, you launch them and put them up there, and nothing's changed. Unless Russia is taking out your satellites and they're not telling the U.S. people, there's no cost difference that's happened to you, Elon Musk.
Well, the only thing I saw about Ukraine was that he was cutting it off because their military was using it for missile guidance, and he didn't want the service being used as a mechanism of war. That was all I saw about that.
So that I can understand. I thought it was, you said the cost of operating it was too high.
I hadn't heard that.
To pay for it. So I could be wrong. I could be interpreting what I read wrong, because what you said is logical to me. I can see saying, okay, if you want to be able to use our system for weapons of war, pay for the military service. That would make sense to me. But the idea that I had read, and it could have been completely propaganda media that I read, that said that he basically was just going to shut their service down because he wanted to get paid by them or the U.S. government, and then he backed down from that decision. But if what you said is a layer to it, then that would help a little bit in my eyes of what seems like the deconstruction of Elon Musk. And I mean, I kind of think about Musk right now. He's in the same cycle in my mind as Will Smith right before the Oscars. Like, you're getting ready to get your big win, but you're also going to get knocked down. And he did it to himself, Will Smith. But you're going to get knocked down multiple pegs of humility just because you got too close to the sun. And I feel like Musk is going to have that too.
It's really disappointing to me from the standpoint of just data caps. I can't tell you how many people I've recommended Starlink to. People who live in rural areas who want decent internet, but I just would rather see someone not even have internet if the option is going to be HughesNet or something like that. I would rather just see them not even have internet access. I mean, maybe I'm a little sadistic in that way.
Dial up.
But I would almost just rather them continue living in the 1950s until something better comes along than to see them get something like HughesNet. But with the data caps, I mean, that has really just neutered an otherwise phenomenal service. Now the only advantage to Starlink, as far as I can see, is actual bandwidth, actual speed of data transmission, and latency, because the Starlink satellites orbit at about 1,000 miles above Earth's surface, and I believe traditional satellite internet services orbit at about 80,000 miles above Earth's surface. So you've got, I mean, the packets can only travel at the speed of light, so if you've got satellites 80,000 miles above Earth's surface, you've got a quarter of a second of just built-in latency that you can't do anything about as your packet of data travels up to the satellite, then another quarter of a second of built-in latency that nobody can do anything about when the packet comes back down to Earth on the other end. And then for the server on the other end to respond, it's got the same built-in latency. So that was the big advantage with Starlink, is the lack of that latency coupled with unmetered connections, unmetered, unthrottled connections, and now they are going to begin doing that and essentially make it a service that I wouldn't recommend any more than HughesNet or anything else now. And to make matters even worse, I mean, you're actually paying less for the equipment if you get HughesNet. I mean, Starlink is like $600 for the upfront cost for the equipment, and I think if you sign up for a crappy service like HughesNet, you got to sign a 2-year contract or some bull crap like that, but it costs you about $400 if you cancel early. If you don't cancel early, you don't have to pay for the equipment.
Well, don't they come out and install for you too?
I think so, yeah. I think in the case of Starlink, though, there's no need for somebody to come out and install, at least allegedly.
I mean, I've recommended it to one person in a rural area, and when they started looking what it took, they asked me if I could come do it, and I'm like, yeah, don't go with that then, because I'm not going to sit there and support your satellite connection.
Yeah, you're going to be the phone call receiver, not the Starlink's support department. You will be Starlink's unpaid support department.
Yeah, this person was 100% not technical. So there's as soon as they told me, oh yeah, you have to hook this up and you have to, which I knew because I've watched enough videos of being installed. You have to make sure GPS wise you're checking, or not GPS, but compass, There's an app that helps you do all of it, so it's like really dumbed down that anyone can do it. But this person doesn't have a smartphone, so no. Forget
Okay,
it.
one last story I want to go ahead and plow through real quick. There's a new option for video quality that some YouTube viewers have reported seeing in the website's drop-down menu. The new option is labeled 1080p Premium, and it offers enhanced bitrate, which means higher quality videos with less compression. The new option is currently available to a small group of YouTube Premium subscribers as a part of a test by the website. So it's still 1080p, it's just that it's higher bitrate 1080p. And my question is, with the number of content uploaders also uploading in 4K, I mean, just watch the 4K stream. I mean,
Right.
I guess there's a case to be made for, well, if you're on a data plan that's throttled or you're worried about data consumption, that's the use case here if you want to be able to do 1080p.
Almost everyone who's on an unlimited data plan does not have HD video. You have to pay, you have to pay extra to get HD video on AT&T or Verizon's. I don't know about T-Mobile.
Not on T-Mobile. But you know what's bullcrap on T-Mobile? If you sign up for T-Mobile's Magenta Max plan, which is their unlimited plan that does not throttle regardless of how much data you use. I know, God, like 2 months ago, Nabila used like 400 gigabytes of data. and you want to know why?
Your entire cloud.
You want to know why? It's because she drives around listening to music on the YouTube video service.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, do you not know there are better ways to do this now? But that's why. But she wasn't throttled even in the slightest. And yet, when you sign up for this service, you'll notice that if you go to YouTube and try to watch a 4K video, it begins. Actually, if you try to watch a 1080p video, it starts throttling. It starts buffering. And you actually have to go into your T-Mobile account, go into the settings, go into what's called the profile. And if any of you listening are T-Mobile customers, you need to do this. Go to your T-Mobile account. Go to the profile for each phone line that you have on T-Mobile and enable 4K video streaming. Until you do that, you're not going to be taking full advantage of what you're actually paying for. It's just amazing to me. I mean, that's like an instance of somebody putting friction in front of people. It's a system, you know. I mean, they know that there are a certain number of people who are going to log into T-Mobile's website, go to the profile for each line, and enable 4K. They know that, but they know there is a percentage of people who will not do that. So that friction that they're putting there ultimately benefits them, even though it's easily circumvented. But it's friction. It's kind of like. Hey, build the wall. Well, just people are going to climb over it. I mean, it's not going to matter. What do you want to build? Well, but it's friction. It's a system. It's the concept of friction. You go to CVS and you get a receipt that's got a whole bunch of bullcrap coupons on the back, and you have to jump through 1,000 hoops to use them. You can use them, but nevertheless, there are hoops to jump through before you can. Well, it's friction. It's a system. It's an applied system.
And that friction lets them fudge on the numbers slightly. So in any of those things, whether it's T-Mobile being able to expand their network more aggressively than they technically should, it's because they know how much that friction is going to allow them to not provide the entire service that every customer just thinks they're getting. And but the funny thing is most of the people who don't know to change that setting or don't care, I guess, because once you know, why wouldn't you? But if you don't even know that you would care to do it, you don't care what it means anyway. And with the wall, same thing. It's like I don't need as many Border Patrol people because I've created some friction in the system. Or CVS, we don't have to discount our stuff as much because only a small amount of people are actually going to use these coupons. Or the one that annoys me the most, you go to Kohl's and everything is on sale, but its list price is way more expensive than everywhere else. So their sale makes it the same price as everyone else who's priced it under MSRP. It's like, why are you putting this thing in place that's just a psychological method to make me think I'm getting a deal?
I don't know about you, but when you return something to Amazon here where I live, you can do it at Kohl's.
Right.
And when you do it, they give you Kohl's Cash, And I think it's a discount, or it's like a dollar amount of like $25 or something like that. And then you get into reading the fine print of all the bull crap that it can't be used for. And I mean, I remember I tried to purchase something as innocuous as a pair of socks for one of my daughters using this Kohl's Cash, and I sashay up to the register so proud of myself and hand her my Kohl's Cash stub like some sort of schlub. I handed the stub like a schlub. I'm you know what? I'm working for the publisher of Dr. Seuss, and it's been a wonderful relationship. It's really been symbiotic. And of course
I'm sorry. You're not going to be able to use that for these socks because these were on sale previously.
It's just like some bullcrap reason why I can't use the Kohl's Cash. Stop it with that. Yeah. Oh, one more thing before we end. I know I'm going to have you. Oh, what are you using iOS again for? What are you using an iPhone for?
I have been hesitating to wait to ask you that on the air.
Okay, here's the thing. First of all, I made a big mistake getting the Pixel because it's got curved edges. I thought because the curved edges were mitigated relative to, let's say, the original curved edge phone, which was the Samsung Galaxy S8 Edge. Yep. That was the first big Android device with curved edges. And it's impossible to protect a device with curved edges. You cannot do it. There's no way to do it. So I owned this Pixel for a month or two, and what do you know? I've got a cracked display. Well, I'm a little bit OCD on these sorts of things. It drove me nuts. So I went out and I got a glass screen protector, put it over the cracked display, and thought, well, maybe some of the glue from the screen protector is going to fill in the gaps and the cracks, and that's going to make it a little less apparent, and I won't be able to physically feel it because the glass is going to be covering it. Well, still you've got the edge there, which can't be covered, and I started noticing dust and stuff was working its way into the crack, and I was just so disgusted with that. Secondly, with the Pixel, whenever I plug an audio cable into the Pixel in my car and a phone call comes in, I have to unplug the cable from the Pixel in order for the caller to be able to hear me. That is big fat pain in the ass. I even went and got so you've got the USB-C adapter that goes from USB-C to headphone jack. And I thought that the problem here was that I was using a tip ring sleeve cable. So you've got one, you look at an audio cable, whether it's a headphone cable or a big fat 1/4-inch cable that you might use for audio equipment or whatever, and you look at the tip and it's got sleeves. It's got a tip, it's got a ring and a sleeve. One of those is the left channel, one of those is the right channel, and one of those is the ground. TRS, tip ring sleeve. There's also tip ring sleeve, which is you'll see 4 metallic sleeves on the jack tip at the end, which one is left channel, one right channel, one ground, and one microphone. I don't know necessarily which order those are in the sleeves, but that's what they are. So I thought by getting a tip ring sleeve cable and plugging it into this USB-C adapter for my Pixel, that was going to fix the problem where my callers couldn't hear me over my car's microphone system. Well, no, that didn't fix the problem. So there was that. There were a bunch of little stupid things I was running into. I just got sick of it, and I decided, you know what? I'm never buying another phone with a curved edge. And if the Android world can't get... Look at the Samsung flagship, the S22 Ultra, the S23 Ultra, all of them curved edges. The Pixel Pro, curved edges. Why in the Android universe can they not get away from this curved edge bullcrap? There's not a single phone I or anyone in my family with a curved edge has ever owned that had any sort of a lifespan that could be respected in any way whatsoever. Yet we keep pumping out these curved edge phones. I don't get it. You get an iPhone, nice, beautiful flat display. I'm looking at my Peak design case that I bought for this iPhone, and since it's got no curved edge, the rubber bumper goes up real nice all the way around the perimeter of the screen. Nothing is happening to this phone. It's going to be safe forever in this case. I'm just so sick of it, and I'm done with it. At least I know what I'm getting with an iPhone. There are things I don't like about it, but I'm done hopping back and forth. Let me tell you the other thing that I really, I mean, this Apple Watch Ultra is so awesome.
Oh, do you have an Ultra?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I even got the LTE version.
Oh, wow.
It's so badass.
I've got the new watch, but I don't have the Ultra.
Yeah,
I've got the Nike Run one.
Yeah, it's, I really wanted this watch. And the titanium is so beautiful and just, man, This thing
Man,
is,
that podcasting money's really coming in for you.
As the kids would say, this thing is bussin'.
Yeah, that thing's huge though, isn't it?
I mean, it looks normal on my wrist,
does it?
and it feels normal. It's comfortable. I don't really care for the band that it came with, but it's a beautiful, and it's not curved at all. The display on the Ultra is just completely flat, and you've got this titanium bezel all the way around the watch, so the screen's nicely protected. That Ultra, I got to tell you, that was a big motivating factor. You cannot find a wearable in the Android world that I at least would want to own.
Well, the thing that's so funny to me is that I owned the first Samsung watch, and that one with my Galaxy S5 was way more useful. Like the integration between the two, I loved way more than I do the iOS. But the iOS watch or the Apple Watch feels so much better. So like just in general as a watch that I'm wearing, I prefer the Apple Watch.
It really feels great,
day.
Doesn't it? Every Apple Watch just feels good. You forget you're wearing it, in fact.
Yeah, but
and they've put the thought into it. That's why the watches are not round.
Right. Well, the thing is though, right, the Pixel Watch is like, I'm not going to wear that thing. But like my notifications, mine is on theater mode all the time. My old Samsung watch, I got emails. I responded to emails on it. My social media was connected to it back when I actually did that stuff. My Apple Watch, always in theater mode. I tap the screen when I want to see the time or the weather. And when I get a text, I get a notification of the text, but I go to my phone to see it. I don't really care. This thing does not do anything for me smart, which is probably why I won't get an Ultra, even though I think it looks like a cool watch. But it's just funny to me that I'll pick the Apple Watch every day, but I had a much better user experience with the Samsung Watch. And you can't even get that one anymore. And the Pixel watches the Android watches, the Pixel I played with, and one of the other manufacturers, I can't think of who it was now.
The Samsung watches do some pretty cool stuff, I will say. I mean, like there's a feature where it runs an electrical charge through your body to tell you how much of a fat shit you are. It will literally tell you what percentage of your body is fat.
So I have a Wise scale that does that too.
Oh boy. So the Chinese know everything about you. I mean, it's just gotten out of hand over there at Curtis's house.
Well, my name's Roger on it, so they're not going to get me.
Okay, well, you know what?
Really, always use a fake name when you sign up for accounts for services that have personal data on you. Don't give your real name or address.
You've been listening to Is This Secure? It's a podcast about tech. Take a look at our website, isthisSecure.com. You can also, if you prefer it on YouTube, it's youtube.com/mvandeven. Take care, everybody.
Bye, Curtis.
Till next time.